Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, Pro Physique Athlete. Today I'll be sharing a full 4-day hypertrophy program that is inspired by Dorian Yates and using his split. Dorian Yates is a 6-time Mr. Olympia renowned for his low volume, high intensity training style. I've gotten a lot of requests for this and this program will emulate his training style. It is designed to be low volume and high intensity. This program could work for a variety of experience levels for different reasons, and we'll talk about those later. This program follows a 4-day body part or bro split. It's set up like this: chest, biceps, and abs, leg day, shoulders, triceps, and abs, and back. This is actually one of the better bro split setups, so I'm glad to be sharing it here. We'll start off with a program walkthrough where I'll share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself, including exercises, sets, and reps. Then we'll talk about the weekly setup or how to lay out the workouts across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of this Dorian Yates inspired hypertrophy program. Alright, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is Dr. Swole's Dorian Yates inspired program. It's a low volume program set for 4 days per week and will suit a variety of experience levels. We've got chest, biceps, and ab day, leg day, shoulders, triceps, and abs, and back day. This program is actually set to run on a 6-day cycle, which we'll talk about later. Here are the exercises, there are the sets and reps, and down here you have the total number of sets for each workout. So you'll see that we have very few sets in each workout. And here's the muscle group weekly set volumes, or I should say cycle volumes, since this is run on a 6-day cycle. And you'll see that this is the lowest volume program out of anything that I've shared so far. And there are going to be some unique implications of this. This program is designed to be run with a lot of use of intensity techniques, which we'll talk about briefly. We'll start off with day 1. So you have incline bench press for the chest. 1 set of 6 to 8 reps. You're mainly just going to be doing one main work set for every exercise. And according to the Dorian Yates style, you're going to take this all the way to failure and use intensity techniques for most exercises. Dorian Yates did use a training partner for a lot of his exercises to help take him past failure. I've actually written this program so you can run it without a training partner if necessary. It's going to be difficult to do stuff like forced reps on incline bench press without a partner, so I'll just say that you take this to failure. Then we have machine bench press to the chest, 1 set of 6 to 8 reps. And here my preference for intensity techniques is to use drop sets. So go all the way to failure, then do 1 or 2 drop sets afterwards. Next we have incline dumbbell flies for the chest, 1 set of 8 to 12 reps. Followed by machine flies also for the chest, 1 set of 8 to 12 reps. Then we have lying bicep curls, which is a Dr. Swole favorite, 1 heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. I like emphasizing your high priority movements by putting them earlier. Then we have easy bar curls for the biceps, 1 set of 6 to 8 reps, followed by concentration curls also for the biceps, 1 set of 8 to 12 reps. You will take all of these to failure and do a couple of drop sets after each of them. For concentration curls, these actually work really well for forced reps. Dorian liked using these as an intensity technique, so basically you'll just be using your other arm to help you out after you pass failure. This is basically just a manually assisted form of drop sets. The benefit, I suppose, would be that there's no rest in between the sets. Since you don't have to drop the weight and switch weights, you can just keep going. Then we have some ab work, hanging leg raises, 1 set of 8 to 12 reps. And if you're able to, you can add weight to these by putting a dumbbell between your ankles. Then we have cable crunches also for the abs, 1 set of 10 to 15 reps. I'm not that big of an advocate of direct ab training, but when you do, I'd recommend that you try and choose exercises that allow you to add weight. Next, we have leg day, and we start off with leg extensions for the quads, 1 heavy set of 8 to 12 reps. Here, I really want you to be trying to go heavy on your leg extensions. Since we have so little volume, you really want to be pushing the progressive overload and intensity on these sets. Then we have leg presses also for the quads, 1 set of 8 to 12 reps. Since you're on the leg press machine already, you can follow these with calf raises for the calves, 1 set of 10 to 15 reps. Leg extensions and leg presses will do well with drop sets, and same with calf raises. When you're in the leg press machine for calf raises, you can also do partial reps at the end of some of your drop sets. That is, when you hit failure, you can continue going on with just partial reps in the stretched range of motion at the bottom. Then we have Smith machine squats for the quads, 1 set of 8 to 12 reps. And this is actually going to be your main heavy quad movement of the program. You'll see that we're utilizing a pre-fatigue type method here, where you're using some of your more isolation type quad work first, where you're really getting our directed stimulus to your quads and you could really push yourself. And then by the time you get to your main heavy compound movement later, your quads are already fatigued and they're more likely to be the limiting factor in the movement. You'll be using less weight, but still be getting a good stimulus for your quads. This can be a technique to increase your stimulus to fatigue ratio, which can be beneficial for advanced athletes. Then we have leg curls for the hamstrings, 1 heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. You'll typically see me programming leg curls with higher reps, but they can also be used as a heavy movement as shown here. Leg curls will pre-fatigue your hamstrings for RDLs afterwards, 1 set of 6 to 8 reps. I wouldn't recommend trying to do intensity techniques on RDLs, just really push the progressive overload. Then we have seated leg curls for the hamstrings, 1 set of 10 to 15 reps, and leg curls will do really well with drop sets. Then we have some standing dumbbell calf raises for the calves, 1 heavy set of 10 to 12 reps. These will work for drop sets as well, where you just drop the dumbbell and continue doing reps without weight. Moving on, we have shoulder, triceps, and ab day. We start off with Smith machine overhead press, one heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. You'll see that Dorian doesn't necessarily rely on his main heavy free weight compounds like bench press and overhead press. As an advanced athlete, these movements generate a lot of fatigue, and you might be better served by using a bit more machine work. Then we have dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, one heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. Really try and make sure you control the eccentric here, even when you're going heavy. I know it's going to be hard. Then we have barbell upright rows for the side delts, but also the traps, one heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. And then cable lateral raises also for the side delts, one heavy set of 6 to 12 reps. Dorian really likes the 6 to 8 rep range, which I actually think is a good choice, especially if you're going to be training with low volumes. Since volumes are so low, you really want to be pushing progressive overload, and going heavy in this lower to moderate rep range will get you a lot of bang for your buck. Then we have cable press downs for the triceps, one heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. Make sure you're warming up properly for these guys, so have a few pyramiding sets out where you just work up in weight. Then we have easy bar skull crushers for the triceps, one set of 6 to 8 reps. Finally, cable overhead extensions also for the triceps, one set of 8 to 12 reps. I think Dorian had some single arm press downs here. I personally think that the bilateral movements work a little bit better for the triceps since you have more capability for overload. I'd save the more fancy stuff for people who are advanced. Then we have weighted V-ups for the abs, one set of 8 to 12 reps, and you can use a plate to add resistance. And reverse crunches for the abs, one set of 10 to 20 reps. Try doing some drop sets for the V sets, and for reverse crunches, you can use myo reps. So just rest for a few seconds in between and do a few more mini sets to failure. Then we have our back day. We start with dumbbell pullovers, one heavy set of 8 to 12 reps. If you have a pullover machine, try that, but I know a lot of people don't have access. Then we have machine pull downs for the back, one heavy set of 6 to 8 reps, followed by barbell rows, one set of 6 to 8 reps. Here again, we have a bit of pre-fatigue, so we're really focusing on the lats in these first two movements. And then for our barbell rows, our lats are already pre-fatigued. This can take a bit of the edge off the fatigue of throwing really heavy weights, because an advanced athlete trying to program this first in the day and really focusing on strength could really put themselves in the ground. Then we have cable rows also for the back, one set of 6 to 8 reps. And lastly, chest supported rows for the back, one set of 8 to 12 reps. I have mixed up the rep ranges a little bit by adding some slightly more moderate rep ranges here. I do think that having a bit of breadth in your rep ranges will be helpful. But with low volume training, I do recommend trying to really stay in that 6 to 12 rep range for the most part. Then you have barbell back extensions for the glutes and hamstrings, but also the lower back, one set of 6 to 10 reps. Here you basically use the back extension machine at about a 55-degree angle. This will allow you to really torture glutes and hamstrings, and you can take this one to failure. And you can do some drop sets by dropping the barbell and just doing some reps without added weight. Finally, we have deadlifts. You work up to one heavy set of 6 to 8 reps. I would not recommend using beyond failure techniques for the deadlift. It just runs too high of an injury risk. But for all of these other back movements, you can go to failure and use intensity techniques. Again, drop sets are going to work well. Notice that I put a slightly easier chest supported row last. This way you can really torch your back at the end of the session. Since your lower back has taken another movement, you can really push your upper back training. In Dorian's program, he does have rear delts on this day, but I personally think that rear delts get trained well with pulling movements. And I actually think you're better served by having a bit of extra back work. So I've added an extra back exercise. This will effectively get your rear delts as well, but also give you more lat stimulation, which I think most people need. Notice that the low volume nature of this program suits it pretty well for beginners. If you are a beginner, I would recommend being careful with the intensity work to start. On the reverse side, this program also can work for more advanced athletes because you'll see that there's some careful programming of pre-fatigue work, as well as the use of a lot of machine exercises, and you'll see how Dorian has tried to balance out fatigue in this program. What program do you guys want to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments below. All right, now that you've seen the program, let's talk about the weekly setup. Here's the layout of the Dorian Yates split. We have chest, biceps, and ab day, then leg day, rest, shoulders, triceps, and abs, back, rest, and then you repeat. So back to chest, biceps, and abs. So note that this is actually a 6-day repeating cycle. Out of all the bro splits out there, I actually really like this setup for a few reasons. First of all, even though it's a body part split, you actually get a slightly higher frequency for a few muscle groups. By splitting up biceps and back training and taking triceps away from chest training, you're effectively training these muscle groups twice per week, or twice per cycle in this 6-day setup. You'll also notice that legs get somewhat trained twice per week since we put deadlifts onto back day. Another thing I like here is how our tougher day comes second. If you're really fatigued after a tough leg day, you may not perform as well in your chest and back training coming the day after. Same with back day with heavy deadlifts. I also like how this program has been set up in a 6-day rotating fashion. That is, you're compressing a little bit and you're actually increasing the frequency than if you just ran it across 7 days. Note that this program can also be run 7 days across the week if this works better with your schedule. If you are going to do so, I'd recommend putting the rest day in between this chest and leg day. Basically, you want to give as much cushioning around this heavy leg day as possible. All right, now let's talk about the pros and cons of this Dorian Yates inspired program. Starting off with the pros. First of all, this program is pretty time efficient. I do qualify this a little bit in that it's not the most time efficient program ever, but the fact that we're using very low volumes with very high intensities means that we're getting the most out of every set possible. Since you're just taking every set to failure and then adding on a few drop sets or forced reps, these workouts are actually going to be very compact. And I actually do recommend this kind of low volume, high intensity training if you're really short on time. If you don't have the time to fit in more volume, you can cheat up the stimulus a bit by adding intensity. This doesn't quite work in an equivalent fashion, and I do think a lot of people will benefit from more volume and just being a little bit more careful with intensity. But if you're short on time, it's a pretty clear answer. You really want to just make the most out of your time. Next, one thing I like about high intensity training is that you have a hard endpoint with RIR, and thus you're very reliable with your relative intensity. Relative intensity is how close you go to failure, and one of the issues a lot of beginners have is they're just not training hard enough. You may think you're 2 reps shy of failure when you're really 5 or 6. And I do think having some regular failure training in a program is useful even for beginners because it teaches you where failure is and allows you to start gauging your RIR. If you aren't sure in terms of where you are with RIR, taking a set to failure is the most reliable way to know that you're training intensely. Next, high intensity style training can be enjoyable for a lot of people. If you just really like this training style and you wouldn't end up training consistently if you didn't enjoy your program, then I would recommend choosing a training style that allows you to be consistent and enjoy the gym. Training in a way that's sustainable for you is really important. Finally, looking at the split itself, this is a bro split, but I do like how the arms are not trained after their pushing and pulling counterparts. Chest is paired with biceps and triceps are paired with shoulders, so you're able to train your biceps when they're fresh and not fatigued after back training. Also, you're able to train your triceps when they're relatively fresh and not fatigued after pushing movements for the chest. This is an intelligent setup and I really like this variation of the Dorian Yates body part split. You'll also notice that this program does maximize frequency in its own way. By splitting up chest and triceps and back and biceps, you're effectively training your arms twice per week. Your legs also somewhat get trained twice per week because deadlifts are put on back day. Okay, now let's talk about the cons of this Dorian Yates inspired 4-day hypertrophy program. First of all, this program has a low frequency for your chest, back, and side delt training. You're just training them once every 6 days. I typically recommend that people try and train each muscle group at least twice per week. The main benefit is that it allows you to accommodate more volume as you require it. But I also think that you get some benefits in your ability to practice your mind-muscle connection more frequently, build technique for less experienced athletes, and accommodate irregular schedules a bit more. Note that in the Dorian Yates training style, training with low frequencies actually is somewhat of a necessity. Since you're training with such high intensities, taking all sets to failure and adding intensity sets, you might actually need those 6 days just to recover. This is kind of the chicken and the egg phenomena where intensity and low volume go hand in hand. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend jacking up the frequency with this program in particular because since you're training so intensely, you're probably going to run into fatigue issues and maybe even chronic injuries. Notice that you can somewhat increase the frequency by being careful with exercise selection. So for example, on your tricep day, you could actually put a close grip bench press, which would give you a little bit of a higher frequency for your chest. Next, this program has poor fatigue distribution, and this is just one of the consequences of using a bro split. This program has a crushing leg day, which is going to be significantly more difficult than your other days. This can become a problem for someone who's more advanced, where the fatigue within a session can actually limit your productivity. So since you have such a tough leg day, you might be better off spreading out your leg work. This has been achieved somewhat by putting deadlifts onto back day, but it could definitely be better. Next, a program that is low volume and high intensity is very fatiguing per unit volume. When you take each working set to failure and beyond, you are getting the most possible out of every set. However, doing intensity techniques produces a disproportionate amount of fatigue. Note that fatigue actually isn't that big of a deal for beginners since they're just not able to move that much weight. But for someone who's more advanced and is actually pretty strong, you may actually find that training with this style could be prohibitive just from the fatigue. That is, you might not be recovering or might have chronic aches and pains. Or with the next point, you might just get less productive volume. The failure training issue is somewhat controversial, and I do think that some people will do well with a high intensity, low volume approach. But I think that most people, if you have a good handle on your RIR, will actually do better just being a little bit shy of failure for the most part and doing more volume. The problem with trying to crush every set means you just can't get in many productive sets. Again, this does depend on the total amount of time you have to train each week. So if you're really short on time and you really need compact workouts, this is going to be an effective way to train. That is, you just don't have enough time to fit in an optimal amount of volume. Next, strictly training with the Dorian Yates style does require a training partner to help you with forced reps and negative reps. I don't think this is absolutely necessary though, and you'll see that I chose exercises here that will allow you to use drop sets and myo rep style training, where you can still go beyond failure without having someone necessarily helping you out. Now, I will be sharing this full program as an Excel file in my Facebook group. So if you haven't joined the group already, find the link in the description below, join the group, and you can download the program for free. If you're looking for another 4-day program, check out this video where I share a full hypertrophy program based on the Dr. Swole split. This is a hybrid split between Arnold and push-pull into a 4-day setup. It's a split I designed myself that I actually think works really well for 4 days per week and has a few strong advantages over this Dorian Yates style setup.